Greetings, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. I am your girl, Creatrix. Okay, I hope that you are doing well. I hope that this video is finding you in great spirits because I have a wonderful message out there. Okay, and it's gonna be wonderful to the people who would like to see this happen. And if you don't want to see this happen, well, too bad, so sad, because this energy is permanent. This is a reading of the global energy, and this energy is going to happen. It's already taking place. Okay, the seeds have already been planted, and it's time to see some sprouting. Okay. And this is a message about something that has been happening that we cannot see, but is taking place nonetheless. All right. So I have been hearing for the last couple of days that song by Shakira when the World Cup was in South Africa. You know, the Waka Waka song, right? I've been hearing over and over again. I've been hearing it's time for Africa, okay? Instead of this time for Africa, it's time for Africa. Woo! And this is reason for us to celebrate, okay? So in a nutshell, what is happening, before I expand on it, what is happening is that Africa as a whole, the people, African people, okay, the nations within Africa, are going to be restored, but it's not so much a restoration, it's actually we're coming back better. We're coming back better than we were before the darkness, before the dark night of the soul, okay? Because collectively as a people, we can experience dark nights of the soul. Like multiple lineages can be experiencing the same transformation, okay? And I know that what has been happening to Africa seems like punishment. It seems like darkness. It seems like the problem, right? But actually what was happening to African people is the solution, all right? Because there was and is a major transformation that African people as a whole, that our bloodline, okay, African bloodlines are meant to go through, because in the past there was resistance, and there still is resistance, but there was major resistance to growth that needed to be dealt with, that needed to be worked through, okay? And that's basically what we've been seeing, is these lineages, right? These African lineages, people being busted wide open. All right, all of the trauma, all of the generational curses, all of the low vibrational energy is spilling out of us for the whole world to see. And the reason for this is for us to be able to visually see what was bottled up inside of us, all right, what was festering inside of us. I just heard cesspool. It's a cesspool of ideologies, of culture, past like unnecessarily paradigms and ways of thinking. I just heard privileges. I was gonna say perspectives, privileges. Okay, so I don't know what that's about. Maybe that resonates with you. So African people as a whole needed to be able to see, for our shadows to be manifested in this physical realm, to be able to clean it up, to be able to heal, to grow and evolve. And that's exactly what is happening. Okay, the revolution will not be televised is what I'm hearing. So the way that the Most High or the universe is orchestrating this growth, right? How we are going to go from how we're going to grow and go from being essentially at the bottom, right? Like let's keep it a buck, okay? I'm African, or at least my ancestry is African, right? I'm Ethiopian. My family comes from Ethiopia and Eritrea, and I would never say or do anything to to bash or hate on the motherland, right? Because the motherland is the cradle of civilization, all right? There's so many great things about the continent of Africa and its people. So let's not get it twisted, but let's keep it a buck, right? Africa has been at the bottom of this totem pole, bottom of the human food chain for a very long time. Why? Because of the vulnerability, right? Just like how when we as individuals experience dark night of the soul, that's when we are the most spiritually attacked, right? That's when we feel the most vulnerable, we feel the most spiritually attacked. And that's exactly what happened to African people on the continent, or African people everywhere really, and including the diaspora, is because we were going through this heavy ascension, right? Heavy ascension process, which first we needed to release, we needed to contract before we could expand, right? All of the different things that are coming out of our pores, out of our system, all of these unnecessary traditions and the resistance to growth and all of that, right? Because we were going through that, that made us vulnerable. And so the powers that be, the power structures, used that opportunity, right, while Africans were off of their throne, to be able to take their place. And they always knew that it was temporary, all right? The Vatican, the powers that be, whoever they are, they always knew that it was temporary. They knew that this moment would come where Africans would start to realize, remember who they are again, all right? And so what's happening is that because African people are in such a vulnerable position, and we have so many different hands, right? All of these other lineages, non-African lineages, putting their hands in our stuff, right? The land, the resources, our bodies, our physical bodies, right? All of these things are being used to cultivate the rewards, and basically our energy is being usurped. Our land and our energy is being usurped to maintain these other lineages, these other non-African lineages, right? So what's happening is that these lineages, they obviously don't want things to change because they're benefiting off of this temporary hiatus that African people have taken from their purpose, right? In order to be able to evolve and grow. So what's happening is that the universe is orchestrating the universe has already been orchestrating this collective change and growth. But what's happening is that it's internal, okay? Like there's this collective growth that's happening internally, and that is the natural technology that the Most High created in this realm, okay? That nobody can combat. Do you get what I'm saying? No, there's no weapons, no mind control, there's no amount of money, there's none of that to be able to combat or overstep the natural technology that the Most High has created and embedded within the avatars that we use to interface with this matrix, right? Like nothing that these non-African lineages or bloodlines that are using Africa's vulnerability right now, there's nothing that they can do to stop this revolution. That's what I mean when I say that it's permanent. It's happening whether anybody likes it or not, because it's not tangible. You know what I'm saying? It's spiritual, it's internal, right? And it's going to be extremely powerful because African people have a natural projector mentality. African people, naturally within our DNA, we have the ability to project reality, if that makes any sense. Like our DNA codes are very much so geared towards maintaining this reality. That's why we are so in tune with nature, and so are so many other cultures and bloodlines, right? But especially African people, we are in tune with nature because we're helping sustain it. The way that our brains are projecting the reality is on a whole different level. So what does that mean? In essence, what I mean is that African people are natural born master manifestors. Our perspectives, our internalized thoughts, our subconscious is heavily helping to shape and affecting the reality of other lineages. That's how powerful African people are. So the reason why religion and colonialism and all of these different, the redirection or the misleading of history, the rewriting of history and all of that stuff is able to be sustained is because Africans are in a vulnerable position to where, we're contracting and we're releasing a lot of stuff, right? So that leaves us in a vulnerable position. It leaves us wide open. So when somebody is using mind control tactics, psychological tactics, right? Like colonists are literal witches and warlocks. They're occultists, right? And they're spiritually attacking Africans at our vulnerable, at our, while we're going through a dark night of the soul. So knowing that we are projectors, knowing that we're master manifestors, when they feed us the information, when our subconscious receives this information, we're able to project it outward. And so what we are projecting it comes to be, it comes to pass. And that's how they've been usurping our very bodies, our very tools. This avatar, that this meat suit that we're in, is our tool here on this realm. So by controlling our subconscious and even our conscious mind, they are using us as projectors to be able to project the type of reality that they want to experience even for themselves. Okay, and that's not to take away from any other group of people, because everybody on this realm has the ability and capability to be master manifestors and project the reality that they want. However, like I said, the genetic makeup of African people allows for us to easily tap into this consciousness grid, our inner world is strong, so we have an effect on the external world in a nutshell, right? Not trying to get too scientific, but that's the gist of it basically, right? And we can talk about, melanated beings, like the fact that we have melanin in our system that links us to the consciousness grid and all this and that. And maybe we'll get into that later, but I just want to convey that the people, like these non-African lineages, have studied African people for a very, very, very long time. Like they invest billions and trillions of dollars into understanding, and knowing how we work, right? In order to be able to imitate this technology, the technology of our bodies, right? And that's why there's melanin in chips. That's why there's so many African people who go missing and never to be found again, not even a body, right? Or, we have instances where African bodies are found, but our internal stuff, right, is gone, right? And so all of these things are being used for research. There's so many experiments being done on us that we don't even realize are going on. Okay, so yes, because of the non-African lineages that are constantly undermining, breaking up the foundation. Every time African people try to build something, they break it up, right? They come in between and they do something to break the foundation down, right? And that's because thus far, and no judgment, thus far African people have been we haven't been able to use the ancient technology that we had been using before to get to such a high place that we were at in the past. We lost that, right? Because we were so busy in survival mode, defending ourselves during this vulnerable time, right? But now those gifts are coming back online. We're going back to who we were previously, but not only that, we've gained so much, right? So the contraction period is coming to a close, right? That cycle is coming to a close. Now we're beginning to expand, right? And this expansion process is going to heavily rely on our spiritual gifts, on our developing our internal world, right? Using our projector abilities, right? Projecting the reality that we want to see instead of projecting the reality that was fed to us and that's been benefiting other people, right? So African or people that are part of the diaspora that still haven't learned the lesson that putting your physical body in the way of harm in order to benefit African people, like if you haven't realized that that's not the way to help African people and that you are literally martyring yourself and sacrificing yourself for something that's going to resolve itself, right? For something that is necessary, for something that's not a punishment, for something that we can use to benefit us. Like the situation that African people are in is not a punishment. We've actually been given time to figure out how to sidestep the challenges that we've been saving, okay? And a lot of African people have been able to get out of the current situation that we are in. But yes, there are a lot of African people that are still stuck, right? And what do I mean by that? I mean, I'm talking about the Thomas Sankaras, the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, and I know with Martin Luther King, there's some nuances with that because some people say that he was actually a CIA plant and this and that. That's besides the point. What I mean is that there's this narrative, right, where African people or people in the diaspora need to put their physical bodies in harm's way in order to force the hand of these colonialists to be able to break free, right? And that's never going to be the answer. And what is also never going to be the answer is begging for rights, begging for money from these same colonialists. Okay, that is beneath African people. That's literally why our spirit guides, our ancestors, and these extraterrestrials that watch over us, like the Orisha, the Lua, all of the Anunnaki, all of the extraterrestrials that watch over us, they're not going to allow us to receive our rewards or safety or protection or any of the stuff that we want from begging or, fighting. The answer is through becoming master manifestors by reorganizing our internal world to be a permanent leader in the world once again. Okay, because that's the only thing that's going to bring us a real cure or a permanent solution. Because once you start fighting, you always got to start fighting. Once you start begging, you're going to always have to beg. All right. So the fact that we haven't been reprimanded or gotten reparations, not reprimanded, the fact that we haven't gotten reparations, the fact that these colonists constantly seem to be gaining more and more technology to be able to hurt our physical bodies or keep our physical bodies under control, the fact that these colonists are more intelligent in the sense to where they economically, politically have been able to keep African people at bay from progressing in that way. It's not an accident. The universe is blocking those paths because we need to turn to the only path that is going to work for us, which is in here, mastering ourselves on the inside, becoming the occultists, becoming masters in the spiritual, in the physical, and in the mental. There's no other way for us to progress. All of those doors have been shut on our face over and over and over again. And our backs, because our backs are up against the wall, because we've hit rock bottom, because there's instances of our children suffering, dying of starvation, husband and wife just completely going at it, rape, genocide, slavery, all of these different things have rained down on us to be able to show us that the only way that we are going to receive salvation is through letting go of a victim mentality, taking accountability, taking it upon ourselves to take care of us. First and foremost, we take care of the avatar that we're in, our mental body, our emotional body. And then once that cup is full, then we can focus on helping each other, spreading the word, going into traditional practices that we know will help us, using the herbs as healing, working the land, right? We don't even have to work the land works itself. All we have to do is pick the fruit, pick the food, and consume it. That's all we have to do. All of the backbiting, the fighting, the crab mentality, we have to first unalign ourselves with that to realign with our higher selves, right? And then everything else is automatically going to align with us. Our external world is going to align with us. And so we have to make ourselves worthy of sitting on the throne. And the throne will just be waiting there for us empty. They will be forced to get their asses up off the throne because their bodies didn't fit on the throne. They're uncomfortably sitting on the throne. Yeah, they want that space because there's so many benefits to it, but they're not comfortable on that throne. It wasn't meant for them. The throne was meant for us. And they have their own throne. Like, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that, African people have to reign over everybody else and, we're superior and all that. I'm not saying that. Everyone has their throne and everyone has their purpose, depending on your lineage, right? But we, specifically African people, have gone through such a period because we're being prepared for a bigger and better dynasty, a bigger and better era. All right. And that can only come to be if we do the proper contraction and expansion process of evolution. All right. So there's people who talk to me about, how do we help Africa? How can we help, the African diaspora that's all over the world, that's experiencing racism and hate and all of these different things? It's not. The answer is not fight against the man. The answer is not, change policies. The answer is not economics. And the answer is not engaging with their trade, import, and export system. That's not it. All right. It's happening internally already. All right. There's no need to put our bodies, our time, our effort, and our resources into so-called helping African people, because all of those lessons are there first and foremost to help African people grow. All right. And you getting in the way with that is only going to, one, distract you, but also you going to get hit with that same lesson. You get what I'm saying? You are going to experience your lesson if you try to get in the way of somebody's lesson. And two, the change is already happening. Okay, the Most High, the universe, okay, which are two separate entities, by the way, but the universe is already orchestrating the ascension process of African people so that we won't need anybody to help us. The diaspora, foreign aid, foreign countries, nobody is going to need to help us once the universe has done what it is supposed to do, because the universe is a very complex, beautiful system in which it orchestrates the type of healing that we need. All right, this is a blessing. This is a gift that's being bestowed upon the lineages in Africa. African lineages, all of the stuff that we've been through thus far has been a gift, because the next time those African people come back, the next time those lineages, the people in those lineages come back, they're going to be in a totally different situation because of the hard work and effort that they put in. Okay, and like I said, I know some of you are thinking, wow, genocide, unaliving, slavery, spiritual attack, having our religion taken away from us, having our bodies mutilated and violated, that seems so very harsh, and da-da-da. How can you say that the universe orchestrated that? The universe is cruel and da-da-da. Breathe, okay? Because the way that we understand the universe, or what is cruel or what is good or bad, the system of duality, right? That is a man-made construct. Society tells us what is acceptable, what is right, and all this and that, right? But if we were outside of these bodies and we were in our true soul form, our spiritual form, right, we would see that all of these things are necessary. And not only that, we would see that we're actually safe. All of us are actually safe, and all of us are actually in control of what we get to experience here. So yes, all of those things were a choice on behalf of African people. All of those things happened to us, for us, in order for us to be able to grow and evolve. And we will see that there is no other system, technology, no other way of doing it is going to bring about the results that we are going to see in the near future. The way that Africa is about to stand up and create and rebuild and just flourish, there is no other way that this could have happened unless we had endured through the things that we experienced. All right. And all of us experience this on a micro level, all of this individual on an individual level. We all go through challenges, obstacles, to where some of us even feel like we would rather forfeit the game by unaliving ourselves, right? Like, all of us go through that. But the fact that African people went through that collectively means that we are going to see a huge leap, bounds, distances that African people and African lineages are going to go through. Like, the real royalty is coming back, all right? The real, like that, I'm talking about better than what Kemet had built at the peak of Kemet, okay? It's going to be better than that. All right, if you can imagine all gold everything and all these different statues and the building of pyramids, right? And how the hell are those pyramids, still existing? Like, not only that, but how the hell did they get them to, how the hell did they build them in the first damn place? We're gonna see that, except better. And all of that we as Africans went through was necessary in order to get us to that place. And guess what? We're going to experience another so-called rough patch or another contraction period in the future after our expansion phase. That's the way that this world works. That's the way that Earth generates its power, is through contraction and expansion, okay? Breath, all right? That is consciousness. We do this on a micro level to where we expand and contract, expand and contract. We do this, our atoms do this. Not only our atoms, but, Higgs bosons and all of these subatomic particles, right? And there's even smaller subatomic particles that build up the subatomic particles, and the subatomic particles build up the atoms, and the atoms build up the molecules, and the molecules build up the tissue, and the tissue builds up the organ system, so on and so forth, right? This contraction and expansion that we experience happens on all levels. So the more that we get used to this process, and the more that we learn how to evolve smoother and better and nicer, and the more that we're able to kick back, relax, and allow, the more that we're able to surrender instead of resist this evolution process, boy, the more badass we're going to be, the more we're going to get to evolve, because there's no limit. This is never going to stop. It's always going to continue till infinity and beyond, right? So yeah, it's giving Toy Story vibes, like learn how to have fun. It's giving childlike energy, all right? When a child scrapes his knee or her knee, the child might cry for a little bit, but it always gets back up and starts playing the same damn game that led it to getting its foot scraped or its knee scraped, right? So that's what the Bible means by always being childlike energy. Is like, always let shit slide off your back, always move forward, okay? And that's how we take bounds and leaps, all right? Like, you want to talk about this secondary matrix, talks about one step for man, one giant leap for mankind, right? This is how we take leaps, all right? And this energy was lost to us, this knowledge was lost to us, and that's why the struggle was really, really real. But the more that we can preserve this energy of knowing that there's always going to be a contraction through expansion after expansion, and knowing that there's always going to be expansion after contraction, if we can remember that as beings, like, we are going to be great. We're going to be really good through the expansion and the contraction phases, all right? So yeah, nobody has to worry about, fundraising for Africa, or, stopping war or famine. All that is already happening, all right? In fact, worry about yourself. Worry about your own life. All right. It's always amazing and great to have the energy of wanting to help other people, of being not a renegade, but being what is it called when you help people? I forgot what it's called, but y'all know what I'm saying. Like, somebody who helps, a philanthropist. There you go. The philanthropist energy is always a beautiful energy. However, the universe got it, all right? The universe got it. Our jobs here in this realm is to not be distracted by stuff like that. It's actually to realize that we're here to remember ourselves, and in the process of remembering ourselves, we're actually creating ripples and change throughout the universe. So the best way to help anybody is to help yourself, period. Okay, because there's nothing you can do if you like what you gonna do, fundraise money isn't even part of the natural system that the Most High created. It's still part of the matrix, and money comes and it goes. So yeah, you hustled and bustled and put in all this energy and resources into generating money, but the money is going to be gone, and then you have to keep doing it and doing it. It's a void, a black hole. You're feeding a black hole. All right. So yeah, in order to make real change and really impact the global consciousness is to train yourself and have discipline with yourself to go within. All right, because the more pure our energy is, or the stronger we become, the more we can tap into the global grid system. The more we practice that, the more we practice that, the more we can send out energy and signals for other people to also heal and grow and evolve. Okay, and that's actually what's happening. That's actually what's happening here, okay? The Most High is here, present on this realm, and is affecting the consciousness of the global world, okay? And that's how this is working, all right? So yeah, I'm gonna end there. I love you all so very much, and I'll see you in the next video. If you feel called to, please consider following me on my other social media platforms. I post differently on all of my other social media. So yeah, but for sure, TikTok is gonna get all of the videos, all right? I post the most on my TikTok, so feel free to follow me on TikTok and any other social media platforms. Otherwise, I love you all so very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Creatrix out.